All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, YouTube, wherever you are, whenever you're watching and listening to this. This is Rosh, and this is a video series, AxeFX III Basics. This is going to be a video series covering some of my approaches on how to build presets, as well as some sounds and stuff. So a little about me. I'm a guitar player and guitar tech out here in the LA area. I build and program rigs for a lot of different clients. Some of my clients include Leppard, Perfect Circle, Mesa, Etheridge, Steve Vai, Dweezil Zappa, and so on. So I wanted to get back to the Fractal community and show some of my approaches on how to build presets. We're going to start with some of the basics, and then we're going to continue into some more advanced topics. So last episode, we covered non-master volume amps. So this episode, we're going to cover the Mark series and some of my approaches on the Mesa Boogie Mark series. And it's going to be kind of leaning more towards higher gain tones. So as you can tell, as each episode progresses, we're adding a little more gain to this, to the amps, and just showing you some of my approaches. So here's a empty grid. If you haven't already cleared out the preset, let's start here. Let's do a quick build. We need input 1, output 1, amp and cap, and away we go. And then we're going to connect everything with a shunt. So again, with most tones, as we start adding more gain, I always try to start with the cap first. So with the Mesas, whoops. I like using the 412s. And let's do something with like V30s, especially if you're doing higher gain. They cut through a little bit better. So let's do maybe the Recto stuff. And I'm kind of partial to these York Audio ones in the factory presets. So you can start here. And I always usually start with like some kind of dynamic mic, like a 57. And let's do like a Royer 121. That's kind of a tried and true combo. Always a dynamic and a ribbon mic. Dynamic makes it more mid-rangey and helps cut. And then the ribbon mic kind of smooths things out. So let's see. We got the 121 here. So yeah, let's just use that. Okay. So now let's start with one of my favorites in here. Let's do the JP2C Plus Red. So this is the John Petrucci signature amp. And so the thing about the Mesa amps is that you set your tone in the authentic tab, but then you also need to make sure that you go into the output EQ. And then this is like really where like the mastering of the amp kind of happens. So you get your tone, kind of hear your gain settings and everything like that. So let's do that first. So let's add a little more gain. And you can hear it's a little flubby in the low end. So we're going to actually drop the bass. Okay, cool. And then it's pretty dark, so we're going to boost the treble up a little bit. Okay, we could probably add a little more gain. And then let's see where the volume's at. Okay, and let's do that at -10. And with these amps, again, with most master volume amps that are high gain, you don't need to crank the master too much, but we'll give it just a little bit. Oops. My bad. All right, so start here, and then let's make sure that we put this at 5. Okay, cool. So probably bring the volume down. Yeah. So let's bring this master a little bit down. Okay, that's a pretty good starting tone. We might scoop the mids just a hair. Actually, I like it where it was. Okay. Now, you see that I basically shaped the tone here, but really where like the output EQ is where like all the fine tuning of everything happens. You hear it's a little thin on the low end, but at least we have it, it's tight now. So here's where the classic Mesa V kind of comes in. And the trick to most of the Mesa amps is actually just play a chord and then move the slider up and down until you get it to where you want. So that's pretty good. And you kind of saw the what I did. These are really powerful sliders. They really shape your tone a lot. So don't be afraid to move them up and down. You're not going to get a lot of low end cranking the bass in the authentic tab. So if I play a chord and then I just move this bass knob, nothing really happens. Right? All it really does is just affect its flubbiness. It's kind of like how the amp kind of reacts to everything. So generally, you want to keep this low, especially on most of the Mark Series amps. It'll just sound a little tighter in the low end, and then if you need more low end, you actually just go into the output EQ and make sure that that is really cranked up to help you get the low end. Now, one of the things that I hear is that the low end is still like too much. It's just getting in the way of everything. It sounds good on its own, but if you put this into the mix with other instruments, you're going to find that it just conflicts with like the bass and the kick drum. So you hear the difference, right? If I put this at 20 and then I put this at 10K, where it was, the tone's just too much. It's too wide. It has too much top end and it has too much low end. But what we're doing is we're really making sure that it fits right in the mix. And, don't be afraid to mess with this slider. Maybe we can go down just a hair. And what you're hearing mainly of helping it cut through is definitely the V30s in this cabinet, right? So if it's too sizzly in the top end or anything like that, feel free to just, start pulling the level down on the 57 so that it smooths the tone out a little bit. Right? This ribbon's a little bright for me, so I might actually want to swap this out. Let's see. We can swap it out with something different. Maybe something like that. Yeah, so you hear that got really dark really fast. So we'll just pull this down so the 57 still cuts through. Still pretty dark. Let's experiment with this. So we'll kind of keep that one in mind, but there's some other recto cabs that we can also use. But again, I'm hunting for a ribbon mic that's going to be pretty dark to kind of balance out the kind of the grittiness of that 57. So let's try this one. Yeah, I dig that one. So here we got like a pretty good modern rock tone, something for real big, heavy chords. And then the cool thing is the low end really, really, is pretty tight. And now all we need is a reverb, just to kind of give it some space in a room somewhere. And again, I'll use my go-to settings, 50%, 3 dB, and then we use the input gain to add more or less. Let's try there. So you hear that, it's got that really cool modern rock thing, probably that early 2000s kind of rock tone. So definitely great for that kind of high gain modern rock kind of thing. A lot of these Mark amps are perfect for that. And the cool thing is, it still sounds warm. And if you are, you're going to use it for like a lead tone, all you would do is boost the input with like some kind of overdrive or something, which we'll cover in a future lesson. So again, the big takeaway is, again, with a lot of high gain stuff, I do prefer the V30s, just it helps it cut through. And then again, you want a dynamic mic and a ribbon mic to kind of, the dynamic mic helps it cut through, and then the ribbon mic kind of helps smooth it out. So something like this, just depending on the context, it might be a little too dark, so you just pull this down a little bit. And might pull this up just a hair. Maybe even 100. There we go. And yeah, so you can experiment with how much of the ribbon mic you want to blend in. Again, it's, if you want a little bit more brighter brash tone, use the dynamic mic. But if you want it, super smooth and scooped, add more of the ribbon. So anyways, that's a crash course into the Mesa Mark amps. That was the approach I used with the JP2C Plus, but you can do it with the 2C Plus. And then this one has 2 overdrive knobs, but again, use this to shape the tone, kind of get the gain structure where you want it. We'll kind of just do those settings and then use the output EQ to add what you need. Yeah, sounds pretty good. So this one has a little bit of a different character than the JP, but you hear that it's kind of the same approach. Yeah. Pull that down a little more. So pretty easy to dial in once you kind of know some go-to things. Again, pulling the bass down, cranking the treble, but then doing the real mastering in the output EQ section. So if you have any other questions, I would be more than happy to answer them. Until our next episode, I will see you guys later.